Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, just take a second with me. Feel that. The hum of the modern world. It's pretty relentless, isn't it? Just this constant flood, information overload, pressure, always needing to do more, be more. Honestly, sometimes it feels like you're just trying to keep your head above water, and you find yourself thinking, man, I wish there was just a guide, some kind of shortcut to wisdom. It's exhausting.
It really is. You've hit on something central there. This modern landscape, it's all go, go, go. Digital everything, constant demands. And finding that quiet space inside, that inner peace, it feels, well, almost like a luxury, or even impossible sometimes.
Exactly. Which is why today we're doing something a little different, kind of radical, actually. We're way back, like nearly 2,000 years back, to find a guide who maybe you wouldn't expect. An ancient Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius. And we're diving into his private journal, what we now call Meditations. It's not some dusty old history book. Seriously. It feels like a roadmap for right now, for resilience, for perspective, for real inner peace. It's kind of shocking how relevant it still feels.
It is fascinating, isn't it? Because when you look at Aurelius and the whole Stoic philosophy he lived by, you realize the fundamental human struggles. They haven't changed that much. I mean, think about it. Leading an empire, dealing with plagues, war, politics. Okay, maybe not exactly our daily grind, but the underlying pressures, the need for mental strength, finding purpose, fighting that internal chaos, that's universal. And Stoicism at its heart isn't about like having no emotions. It's about understanding what you can control versus what you can't and focusing your energy there. It's super practical, really, designed for living a good life, whatever life throws at you.
Right. So here's the big question for this deep dive then. Can this guy, this ancient emperor philosopher, can he really teach you something useful for navigating your life today? The messy, complicated, everyday stuff. Can his insights help you find resilience when things get tough? Get a clearer perspective on what actually matters. Cultivate that inner peace we're all kind of chasing. So our mission today is to crack open these ancient writings and some others that echo his ideas and translate them, make them practical, actionable. We're sticking just to the sources provided, giving you a direct line to these powerful ideas.
Exactly. We're going to unpack this ancient wisdom, but connect it directly to the challenges you face now, and show how these core ideas keep popping up, echoed by thinkers across the centuries. It's about bridging that gap, Ancient thought, modern life.
Okay, so what's on the agenda? First up, we're going deep into your inner world, the incredible power you have right there in your mind to shape your reality, not just react to it. Then we'll challenge how we usually define success. Look beyond the superficial stuff, the external trappings, and talk about cultivating real, lasting inner wealth. We'll also explore where opportunity really lies. Spoiler, it might be closer than you think, like right in your own backyard. And finally, we'll tackle failure and change, why facing them, even embracing them, isn't just necessary, it's actually essential for growth, for resilience. Sound good? Let's dig in. Okay, so Marcus Aurelius, where do we even start? Well, right at the core, really. The absolute foundation of his thinking and a key Stoic idea. Earl Nightingale actually highlights this in The Strangest Secret. He quotes Marcus Aurelius directly. The emperor said, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." Simple sentence, right? But just sit with that for a second. Your life is what your thoughts make of it.
It sounds simple, yeah, but we overlook it constantly. What's so powerful about that isn't just how concise it is. It's this radical claim of internal control. It's not just, think positive and ignore the bad stuff. No, it's about recognizing that your perception, how you interpret what happens to you, that's what dictates your experience. Understanding that your mind is the ultimate filter, the ultimate shaper of your reality. That's an incredibly powerful tool, especially for resilience. It's like building an inner fortress that nothing external can truly breach.
That's it. It's the ultimate freedom, in a way, realizing you're the architect inside your own head.
Yeah.
And this idea, this belief in the power of the mind, it just echoes everywhere, doesn't it? Across centuries, different fields, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, he basically said the same thing, just slightly differently. A man is what he thinks about all day long. So it's not just random thoughts. It's the stream of thoughts, what you dwell on continuously. That's what shapes you. Your mind's always building, always creating your reality.
Always working. It's this engine inside us, constantly constructing our inner world, which then inevitably influences the outer world. And William James, the famous psychologist, he took this idea and made it really practical. Actionable. He said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." That's not just philosophy, that's like a call to action. Step up and take control of your attitude.
And James didn't stop there. He gave us a how-to almost. This technique he called acting as if. He basically said, we need only in cold blood act as if the thing in question was real and it will become infallibly real. So you want to be brave. You act brave. Even if you're terrified inside, you embody it. You practice the feeling, the mindset, even before it feels totally real. And by doing that consistently, it starts to become real. It gets woven into who you are.
Yes. It shows how belief and consistent action work together. It's transformative. James also connected this directly to achieving goals, to ambition, but with a really important condition: focus. He said, if you only care enough for a result, you will almost certainly ascertain it. Want to be rich? Learned? Good. You can. But, and this is the crucial part, only you must then really wish these things and wish them exclusively and not wish at the same time 100 other compatible things just as strongly. You can't scatter your energy. You need that single-minded focus, that clarity. That's what makes a difference.
Wow. That's a serious call for focus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Diluted wishes get diluted results. Makes sense. But a focused desire builds things up. What about the other side? What does negativity do? Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, he put it really bluntly. He called it one of the universe's greatest laws. If you think in negative terms, you'll get negative results. If you'll think in positive terms, you will achieve positive results. Simple cause and effect, like mental physics.
It really underscores that direct link, doesn't it, between our dominant thoughts and what shows up in our lives. Our thoughts aren't passive, they're active forces. And think about Shakespeare. He knew human nature inside out. He warned us about doubt. Our doubts are traitors, he wrote, and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. That fear of even trying, fueled by self-doubt, it shuts us down before we even start. It's a self-made cage.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, tying it all together. Seneca, another giant of Stoicism, contemporary of Marcus Aurelius. He takes this whole idea of mastering your mind and says, basically, philosophy isn't just interesting, it's essential. It's your compass. In his Letters from a Stoic, he states flat out, no man can live a happy life or even a supportable life without the study of wisdom. He's not talking about getting a PhD here. He means for everyone. If you want a life with purpose, with peace, you need this study of wisdom.
Exactly. Seneca hammers this point home. Philosophy isn't just collecting ideas, it's a daily practice. He says we need continuous study to turn a good inclination, like that fleeting thought, I should be more patient, into a good, settled purpose, a deep, unwavering commitment to patience. It's about actively molding the soul, like strength training for your character, not just reading about it, doing it.
Yeah, and he uses this great image, doesn't he? Philosophy is the ship's captain. He says it's not of words, but of facts. It molds and constructs the soul. It orders our life, guides our conduct. It sits at the helm and directs our course as we waver amid uncertainties. That speaks directly to that modern feeling of being lost at sea, you know? Philosophy gives you the rudder, a way to steer when everything feels chaotic.
Precisely. And the result of this deep, consistent practice, according to Seneca, it's profound. Without it, no one can live fearlessly or in peace of mind. It's the antidote to the anxiety, the indecision we all feel. He even brings in Socrates, pointing to the core wisdom, distinguishing between good and evil, and how real virtue, that inner quality, actually makes you kind of impervious to suffering. Not that you won't feel pain, that's impossible, but suffering won't break you, it won't derail your purpose or corrupt your soul.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, Aurelius, Emerson, James, Peale, Shakespeare, Seneca, like, the big takeaway here is massive. Your mind, it's ground zero. It's your kingdom. Your life's quality isn't really about what happens to you. It's about the quality of your thoughts, day in, day out, and your commitment to shaping those thoughts toward virtue, toward focus. That's where your real power lies, your sovereign power. Okay, so with that foundation, how do we start looking at value differently, especially in a world obsessed with, well, external stuff?
Yeah, this flows perfectly into a really core Stoic idea that frankly bumps up hard against modern culture. It's the difference between real deep joy and just fleeting pleasure. Seneca dives into this in his letters. He acknowledges that, yeah, colloquially we often use pleasure when I mean happiness, but the Stoic view, it's much more provocative. They actually saw pleasure in many cases as a vice.
Whoa, hold on. Pleasure is a vice.
Yeah.
Seriously, that sounds wrong. I mean, everything around us screams seek pleasure, instant gratification, the next dopamine hit. Can you unpack that? Because for most of us, happiness is pleasure. What's the Stoic difference? And why does it matter so much for finding lasting contentment?
Yeah, it definitely sounds counterintuitive at first, right? Because we do tend to mix them up. But for the Stoics, pleasure was often seen as external, temporary, and something that could easily lead to craving more or dependence. Think about, like, A fancy meal, a quick thrill, buying something new, feels good for a bit, but it doesn't last. It's unstable. True joy, Seneca argued, is totally different. He calls it an elation of a spirit which trusts in the goodness and truth of its own possessions, meaning inner qualities. He contrasts this with the joy we might feel about, say, a friend getting a promotion. He says those external things, they can often be the beginnings of sorrow to come. Maybe jealousy creeps in, or the promotion brings stress. Real joy, he says, never ceases and never changes into its opposite. It's this deep inner contentment rooted in your character, your virtue. It's stable because it comes from within, not from external circumstances that are always changing.
Okay, so real joy is internal, secure, aligned with your values, not dependent on outside events that could flip and cause pain just as easily. That's a completely different way to think about happiness. Strips away all the surface stuff. And this connects right into Seneca's other powerful idea. Judge people and ourselves based on what's underneath, not the trappings. He said, and man, this still hits hard today. We value no man at what he is, but unto the man himself the trappings in which he's clothed. In our world of designer labels, fancy titles, curated Instagram feeds, that stings.
It's a direct hit, isn't it? A challenge to our obsession with status and appearances. Seneca urges us look deeper. He says, inquire into a man's true worth. Look at him when he is naked. Metaphorically, of course. Make him lay aside his inherited estate, his titles. Let him even strip off his body. Consider his soul, its quality, and its stature. Is his greatness borrowed or its own? It's about radical honesty, peeling back every layer society uses to judge us: money, job, title, looks, connections, to see the actual quality of the person underneath. Is their greatness real, built from within, or just propped up by external stuff?
A soul's greatness, borrowed or its own. That's powerful imagery. And he uses that vivid analogy too. A dwarf is not tall, though he stand upon a mountaintop. A colossal statue will still be tall, though you place it in a well. Your real worth, your true inner height, isn't changed by where you stand or what surrounds you. The mountain doesn't make the dwarf tall, the well doesn't shrink the statue. It's about what is, the intrinsic quality.
And this inner wealth, this intrinsic quality, becomes absolutely vital when life inevitably throws punches, when adversity hits. Seneca talks about facing adversity almost calmly as part of the deal. He calls it the tax of our mortality. His advice: we must see to it that nothing shall come upon us unforeseen.
But wait, how can you possibly do that? Life is full of surprises. You can't predict a layoff or an illness or, global pandemics.
Right. You can't predict the specifics. Seneca clarifies, though. He says, since things are all the more serious when they are unfamiliar, continual reflection will give you the power not to play the unschooled boy. It's not about having a crystal ball. It's about mental preparedness, developing a philosophical mindset that anticipates hardship in general because it's part of life. He reminds us, no matter what trouble you mention, it has happened to many. Suffering isn't some unique curse aimed just at you. It's universal. It's equally ordained for all. So, his advice: accept it. Pay without complaint the tax of our mortality. Don't waste energy raging against the fact that life is sometimes hard. Acknowledge it as part of the human condition.
Okay, so accept that challenges are part of the human contract. Don't fight the inevitable reality of it. And then he drops this really radical Stoic idea, this paradox. He says, joy and a brave, unyielding endurance of torture are equal goods. Equal goods, joy and torture. That feels totally alien. Why would he possibly say that? How are they equal?
Yeah, that is radical, isn't it? Because it flies in the face of our instinct to avoid pain. And it's a paradox, because how can suffering lead to good? Seneca's reasoning is this: they are equal because in both there is the same greatness of soul. He's not saying torture feels good. He's saying the quality of your inner response to immense suffering can be just as virtuous, just as powerful, just as good in terms of character as the joy you feel from a wonderful experience. He gives that example of Scipio besieging Numantius Scipio, showing strategic greatness. But he says equally great were the souls of the defenders, fighting for liberty, choosing death over surrender, men who breathed their last in the arms of liberty. In both, he sees immense courage, integrity, resolve. So true value, real resilience, comes from your inner response, your character, your virtue, not whether the situation itself is pleasant or painful. It's about winning the inner battle, regardless of the outer circumstances.
Wow, okay. That reframes suffering completely. It's not the ultimate bad thing. It's a testing ground. An opportunity for your soul to show its quality, a crucible. So pulling Seneca's wisdom on value together, real worth, lasting joy, not in stuff, not in fleeting pleasures. It's cultivated inside. Through honest self-assessment, accepting life's challenges with courage, and focusing relentlessly on your character. That's your real wealth. But All this inner work, this mental fortitude, it can't just stay inside, right? You have to do something with it. How does this translate into action out in the world? You're absolutely right. All this amazing inner work, the Stoic discipline, mastering your thoughts, it logically leads to the next crucial step. You got to act. Like Earl Nightingale put it so bluntly, ideas are worthless unless we act on them. Simple as that. It's the bridge. Thought to reality, potential to actual.
This is really where it all comes together, isn't it? Contemplation is the foundation, understanding is key, but without turning those insights into consistent, focused action, they just stay as nice ideas. Untapped potential. Nightingale stresses needing courage and the discipline to concentrate on your goal every day. It's that steady action, driven by courage and focus on something meaningful, that actually creates change in your life and maybe in the world too.
And speaking of action, let's talk opportunity. Because we often have this idea, don't we, that the real opportunity is always somewhere else. Over the horizon, different city, different job, need more money first. But Russell H. Conwell, in his super famous lecture, Acres of Diamonds, tells a completely different story. A story that really challenges that whole mindset. He tells the tale of Ali Hafed, this old Persian farmer, right? Had a good farm, but he heard stories about diamonds, got obsessed, sold his land, left his family, wandered the world searching for diamonds, died broke and alone. And the punchline, the guy who bought his farm, found one of the world's richest diamond mines right there, in the stream running through the property Ali Hafed had sold.
It's such a gut-wrenching story, isn't it? A powerful metaphor. Ali Hafed wasn't poor because he lacked resources. He became poor because he couldn't see the incredible value right in front of him. He was blinded by looking elsewhere. Conwell really drives it home. Every bit of that old farm, he says, yielded gems that ended up in the crowns of kings. The lesson is just stark. The treasure you seek. It's often much, much closer than you think, if you just open your eyes to it.
And Conwell didn't stop there. He had other examples closer to home, like a farmer in Pennsylvania. Sold his farm, decent farm, to go work for his cousin collecting coal oil up in Canada. Thought that was where the money was. Soon after he leaves, they strike oil on his old farm. Big time. Becomes incredibly valuable. Same lesson again, right? Missing the acres of diamonds under your feet because you're convinced they're somewhere else.
These stories just powerfully illustrate that opportunity is often local. It's embedded right where you are. But it requires you to look closely, to investigate the familiar with fresh eyes, to get over that grass is greener feeling and really see the potential in your present situation.
Yeah. My favorite example of his, though, is the toy maker. From Hingham, Massachusetts. Guy was poor, out of work, middle of winter. His wife basically tells him, go do something. So he's just fiddling around, whittles a little wooden chain from a shingle he found soaking just to pass the time. His kids loved it, so he made another. Then a neighbor sees him, says, hey, you should sell those. He's like, sell what? I don't know what to make. But then brilliant common sense kicks in. His wife suggests, ask your own kids what they like. So he does. And he uses firewood, because he had no money for fancy wood, to make these simple, sturdy, unpainted toys based on what his kids wanted. Those became the famous Hingham toys, known everywhere. And this guy became one of the richest men in Massachusetts, worth millions back then. All because he paid attention to a simple need right in his own house and figured other kids would like the same things. Incredible lesson in entrepreneurship right there.
It really is practical wisdom, isn't it? Not just for business, but for life. It shows that starting capital often isn't the main thing. It's common sense, observation, identifying a real human need, often a simple one right where you are, and figuring out how to meet it. Conwell says it explicitly. If you have not capital, young man, I am glad of it. What you need is common sense, not copper sense. He's pushing back hard against that idea that you need money to make money. Ingenuity often matters more.
That's huge, especially today, right? With online businesses, side hustles, the barriers can be lower if you have a good idea and common sense. And Conwell, he even tackles the negative stereotypes about wealth. Still hear them today. He claims 98 out of 100 of the rich men of America are honest. That is why they are rich. That is why they are trusted with money. He even says, if you can honestly attain unto riches, it is your Christian and godly duty to do so. Whoa! That's reframing wealth not as greedy, but potentially as a moral good, if earned honestly and used well.
It's a crucial perspective shift. He's saying wealth isn't inherently bad. It's often the result of earning trust, providing value. And pursued ethically, it can even be a way to contribute more to society. He's careful to distinguish, though. It's the love of money, making it an idol, hoarding it, that's the root of evil, not the money itself used for good purpose. He argues the real path to wealth is dividing always with your fellow men, meaning you get wealthy by serving others, meeting their needs, creating value that benefits the community, which, interestingly, ties right back into Stoic ideas about duty and the common good.
Yeah, it does. Serving others, providing value with integrity. That creates a better society for everyone. It's mutually beneficial. But okay, to do this effectively, you need clear goals. You need focus. Earl Nightingale defines success not as some endpoint, but as a process. The only man who succeeds is the man who's progressively realizing a worthy ideal. It's about the journey, the consistent movement towards something meaningful.
He uses that great analogy of a ship. A ship leaving port with a complete voyage mapped out and planned. Its destination clear, course set. It's almost certain to get there. But he says, sadly, only 1 out of 20 people live their lives with that kind of clarity. Most of us, we're just drifting.
Okay, so how do we become that 1 in 20? How do we stop drifting and start steering? Nightingale gives us a pretty clear roadmap, doesn't he? Like actual steps. First, set a definite and clearly defined goal. Get specific, no fuzziness. Second, let your marvelous mind think about your goals from all possible angles. Brainstorm, explore. Third, let your imagination speculate freely upon many different possible solutions. Don't box yourself in, and this is key. Fourth, refuse to believe there are any circumstances sufficiently strong to defeat you. That unwavering belief. Plus, act decisively when you know the path, and that practical tip, save at least 10% of what you earn. Build that foundation. He really boils it down. Write down on your card specifically what it is that you want. Make sure it is a single goal and clearly defined.
That recipe emphasizes intense mental focus plus practical action. It reminds me of what Conwell said about Abraham Lincoln's approach. Whatsoever he had to do at all, he put his whole mind into it and held it all there until that was all done. Just imagine that level of sustained focus, especially now, with distractions everywhere. It's about total immersion until the job is finished.
That is some serious concentration, a masterclass. But Conwell also adds that important human touch, doesn't he? Amidst all the striving for goals and success, live as you go along. Don't put off enjoying life until you reach some future milestone. Do not wait until you have reached my years before you begin to enjoy anything of this life. Find joy in the process. That feels very stoic, to appreciate the present.
It's a vital balance, isn't it? The journey matters, not just the destination. And Conwell's Royal Road circles right back to people. To understanding needs. He talks about a storekeeper who failed, asking if you had cared enough about him to take an interest in his affairs, to find out what he needed, you would have been rich. It highlights that connection again. Success, wealth, often comes down to solving problems for other people, understanding them.
Yes, and that leads perfectly into Dale Carnegie's stuff from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Understanding others, making them feel seen, valued. That's key. He tells that story about the tax inspector. Mr. Parsons argued with him, the inspector got defensive, asserted his authority. Classic power struggle. But then Parsons shifted. He acknowledged the inspector's importance, stopped arguing, just listened. Suddenly, the inspector became a sympathetic and kindly human being, just by having his need for importance met.
It's psychology 101, really, but so powerful in practice. Acknowledge the other person's ego, their need to feel significant, and you change the whole dynamic. Same with that other Carnegie story, the subcontractor. The visitor didn't jump straight to business. He genuinely complimented the guy's workshop, his machines, showed interest. What happened? The subcontractor beams with pride, gives him a tour, takes him to lunch, all before the real reason for the visit even comes up. It built instant rapport, trust.
It's not just what you want, it's about how you connect with people. Acknowledging their work, their pride, their humanity, that opens doors. Way more effective than just being transactional. Okay, so the big picture for this section. Your acres of diamonds, probably closer than you think. Look around. Success isn't about chasing rainbows. It's about acting with courage, focusing your intent, and genuinely understanding and serving the needs of people right where you are, and enjoying the ride. That's your royal road. But what happens when you do all that and things still go wrong? When you hit setbacks, when life throws massive changes your way, how do you handle that?
Right. This leads us straight into something unavoidable, but also crucial for growth, dealing with failure. And maybe even learning to embrace it as a teacher. J.K. Rowling gave this incredible commencement speech, Very Good Lives, where she talks about this with such honesty. She says, you might never fail on the scale I did, and she failed spectacularly before Harry Potter took off. But some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
Wow. Fail by default. That's powerful. If you play it so safe, you never fail. You've already failed at the bigger game of actually living. That really makes you think. And Rowling She actually credits her failures with giving her things success couldn't. She says, failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained by passing examinations. Failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned no other way, like discovering her own strength, her discipline. So failure isn't just an obstacle, it's data. It's a learning opportunity. It builds resilience in a way that constant success maybe doesn't.
Exactly. It's not the enemy of success. It's often part of the process, a feedback loop. And this idea of transforming setbacks, finding the lesson, it connects directly to the power of reframing, something Tony Robbins talks about a lot, and also echoes the wisdom of Viktor Frankl. Robbins explains we can change the meaning of any experience based on the frame or context we provide.
So it's not the event itself, but the story we tell ourselves about the event, the meaning we assign to it. And we can consciously change that story, change the frame.
Precisely. Robbins says, by shifting our perspective, we can transform challenges into opportunities and effectively alter our responses and emotions. And Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, wrote profoundly about this. He said, even in the absolute worst circumstances, the ultimate freedom is choosing your attitude. It's always a question about the attitude that one adopts toward all the challenges. Reframing helps us find the lesson, identify potential positives, even in really tough experiences. Robbins mentions two types. Context reframing, like seeing a job loss not just as an ending, but maybe as a chance for a new beginning. And content reframing, changing the meaning of specific details within the experience. Both give you more control over your inner state.
That's incredibly empowering. We're not just leaves blowing in the wind of circumstance. We can choose our interpretation. We write the narrative. Okay, what about the biggest change, the ultimate one? Death. Steve Jobs, in that famous Stanford speech, talked about how remembering death was actually a tool for living better. He mentioned reading a quote when he was young. If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right.
Yeah, and that quote stuck with him deeply. He said for over 30 years, he'd ask himself in the mirror every morning, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And crucially, whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. It wasn't about being morbid. It was a tool for radical honesty, for staying aligned with what truly mattered to him.
What a powerful daily check-in. Is this truly important? Is this how I want to spend this irreplaceable day? He called remembering death the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Why? Because, he explained, almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Wow. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You're already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. That's just liberating. It cuts through all the noise, all the fear. It's pure stoic memento mori, remember death. Not to be sad, but to live fully, authentically, now.
It really does strip everything down to the essentials, doesn't it? Focuses you on your core values, your true desires. And this drive for purpose, for growth, it also demands constant learning, continuous improvement, creative thinking. Earl Nightingale warned about stagnation. He quoted a businessman saying, if you're doing anything this year the same way you did it last year, you're in serious trouble. In today's world, standing still means falling behind.
So true. If you're not consciously evolving, you're effectively regressing. Nightingale even said, challenge everything. Challenge the way you lace your shoes or why you lace them. Use that trivial example to make the point. Question assumptions, even tiny habits. Never assume good enough is good enough. Our minds, he said, are this inexhaustible storehouse, absorbing, retaining, projecting, creating. Limitless potential, just waiting for us to tap into it actively.
And he stressed the volume of ideas needed for real creativity. He quoted Stendhal, the novelist, saying something like, I require 3 or 4 cubic feet of new ideas a day as a steamboat requires coal. It's not about waiting for one perfect idea. It's about generating constantly. A disciplined practice, cultivating what Nightingale called the highest function we're capable of. Deliberate creative thought. Not just random ideas, but focused, intentional creation.
Okay, so that's the modern curriculum. Building on ancient wisdom, embracing failure, reframing challenges, remembering mortality to live fully, and constantly improving through creative thought. But wow, as we do all this, as we try, as we inevitably stumble, maybe say the wrong thing, feel ashamed, how do we handle that part, the messy human part?
Ah, yes. That's where forgiveness and self-compassion become absolutely essential. You can't grow if you're constantly beating yourself up over past mistakes. Les Brown has this really powerful, simple exercise. He says, Right now, write down all of your bad habits and faults and all the mistakes you've made. Now take that piece of paper, tear it to shreds and throw it away. Forgive yourself and move on. It's a physical act of letting go, refusing to let past errors define your present or future, choosing to move forward later.
That feels
Necessary.
cathartic. Just release it. And Brene Brown, she talks about self-kindness too, especially when we feel vulnerable or maybe mess up socially, like oversharing out of anxiety or shame. She says, look, we have to give ourselves a break when we share too much too soon. Don't pile judgment on top of the vulnerability. And also be kind to yourself when we feel like we weren't able to hold space for someone who hit us with the floodlight, meaning when someone else overshared at us and we felt overwhelmed.
Her point is so crucial. Judging ourselves or others in those moments, it just exacerbates disconnection. It feeds the shame cycle. Self-compassion is the antidote. It allows us to be imperfect, to learn to stay connected to ourselves and others without letting mistakes or awkwardness completely derail us. And that ties right back to that core Stoic idea, doesn't it? You can't always control the event, or even your initial reactions sometimes, but you can control your response to your reaction. You can choose kindness, understanding, towards yourself too, being your own benevolent emperor, maybe.
What a journey. Seriously.
Yeah.
We've gone from Marcus Aurelius meditating in his tent somewhere near the Danube, all the way to modern thinkers grappling with failure, technology, and vulnerability across
Yeah,
centuries.
we really have. And what's amazing is how these threads connect. The core Stoic ideas from Aurelius and Seneca, you hear them echoed in Nightingale, Conwell, Rowling, Robbins, Frankel, Jobs, Les Brown, Brene Brown. The language changes, the context shifts, but the underlying wisdom, it's remarkably consistent and still so relevant.
And the core message that really shines through all of it, for me at least, is this: your real power, your real peace. It's not about controlling the outside world. Good luck with that. It's about mastering your inside world, your responses. It's about seeing the opportunity that's already around you,
Yeah.
cultivating that inner wealth, that real joy Seneca talked about,
Yeah.
and building resilience by learning from everything, especially the tough stuff, with awareness and, yeah, self-compassion.
Exactly. This isn't just interesting history or philosophy to think about. It's a practical toolkit, a daily practice, shaping your inner world deliberately, consistently. That's how you shape your experience of life. These are tools tested by time available to you right now to build a life with more purpose, more peace, more meaning, no matter what the crazy modern world throws at you next.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, thinking about Marcus Aurelius, about Seneca, about all these voices echoing similar truths, here's the final thought for you. What's one single idea, one insight, one action step from everything we've talked about today that you can actually integrate into your life, starting today? What small change can you make in your own daily medications, your thinking, your perspective, your actions to cultivate that inner strength, to tap into your sovereign mind and connect with your real, unborrowed worth? Something to think about. Until next time on The Deep Dive.